Hey guys, Theron Asbury here with Revital Outdoors, bringing another exciting podcast tonight. Tonight we have Mr. Josh Norris. Last year, Josh finished third in the BFL Volunteer Division on Cherokee Lake, so we're very, very excited to talk to him this evening, talk about his tournament. Got another top 5 angler in the BFLs joining us, so always a great honor. We'll bring him in just a minute. Before we get started, make sure if you haven't already to subscribe to our YouTube channel. That way you get notified when all of our content is dropping. Check us out on Facebook and Instagram, Revital Outdoors. And then if you've never heard of Revital Outdoors, we're a premium CBD company. We make a premium CBD product for all outdoor enthusiasts. It's a great product for all the hunting and fishing enthusiasts out there. So check out our website. Also, if you're interested in pro staff opportunities, check out that pro staff tab, fill out that application. We'd love to review it. We have more and more people representing Revital Outdoors, so make sure you do that. But without further ado, let's go ahead and bring him in. Very excited for this podcast this evening. Mr. Josh Norris, how you doing this evening, bud?
Oh, just lovely. Living the dream.
Living the dream. I like it, man. I like it. So, well, man, let's just get right into it. Last year, third place, Volunteer Division, Cherokee Lake. I looked up your profile a little bit. You're pretty savvy on old Cherokee Lake. You do pretty well there. So tell us what you like about the lake and tell us about your tournament last year.
You know, I'm more from on Watts Bar, Chickamauga, the river system. And for some reason, Cherokee's just always I've just had a special place in my heart for Cherokee. I like everything about how the lake lays out. It fishes really good. It fishes to what I like to do. And I love fishing shallow. So it lines up perfect.
Okay. Well, tell us a little bit more about Cherokee Lake. Never been there before. Never really known a lot of anglers to go there, but I believe it's a deep, clear lake. It's full of big smallmouth. So tell us a little bit. I mean, I love smallmouth fishing. I don't think there's anything better in the world except for maybe noodling in Oklahoma, but, that's a little crazy and over-exaggerating. But, yeah, tell us a little more about Cherokee Lake. And then I assume last year in your tournament when you got third, you were weighed in all smallmouth.
Absolutely not. Only 2 smallmouth that day and 3 largemouth.
Okay, well, we got to hear about it, man. Like, you got to break it down for me. You got to have that mixed bag. So what'd you do?
So Cherokee, it drops really low. It's a flood control lake. It drops really low in the wintertime. And last year we caught it perfect. It had been at the bottom and it started coming up, and it was up 6 or 8 feet from where it falls to, like where it's at right now. Mm-hmm, I mean, it's 1st of March it starts up. So last year, and it was fairly warm. We had some weather come through, but it had been warm. So a lot of those largemouth like to get up and prowl. But the smallmouth, and here's the thing about Cherokee, the smallmouth, they have right now the size limit's 15 inches. But it's not 15 inches throughout the year. So you may get, last year the smallmouth had started bedding. So, normally it's just like largemouth. Anytime they go on bed, the bucks or the 15 inchers are everywhere. Well, I was using live scope last year, and I was able to find those slightly deeper places where they had started spawning and catch smallmouth either on a jerkbait, or I think I even caught 2. Let's see. I caught 1 smallmouth on a jerkbait, and I caught my other one on just a DT6. But it's on isolated rock structure, and it's got huge chunk rock in that lake. And if you find a good flat with a good mud flat, I mean, that's smallmouth territory there.
Okay, so explain the structure a little bit. Like, is it relating to a channel swing, a main lake point? Just when you say it's related to the structure with some chunk rock, can you kind of describe that a little bit?
Yeah, so the whole lake is rock. I mean, there is rock. If you like fishing rock, it's just a matter of what flavor you like. There's tons of rocks, white rocks, black rocks, brown rocks, gray rocks. But the rocks I was keying in on was the bigger natural boulders that's just the natural bottom structure. But they'll come up and you can see them come across when the water's down. You can see them coming down into the water, and you can imagine them going across the lake, and you can look up and see them coming out through there. So finding that depth where they were at, last year they weren't really on, like I say, a swing or nothing, because the water had came up, so they had room to go just out wherever they felt comfortable. And the more isolated they were, especially, if you get a rock vein, it runs for 2 miles. That's going to be hard to find them. But if you find them that's got breaks in them and smooth spots around them and stuff, That's the stuff I was keying on.
Yeah, the irregularities is what you're looking for.
Yeah, the irregularities.
Okay.
And the largemouth. So I caught 2 4. The crazy thing about that was my first week with live scope. I hadn't had it long. Was still sort of skeptical about it. I had just switched all graphs to Garmin, and I came up on this rock pile that I had marked in practice, and there's one smallmouth sitting up on a rock. Catch it on a jerkbait 4-pounder. So hey, that'll work. I get it and put it in the live well. I stand up and I look at my live scope and I just see another fish just swimming by whichever way the trolling motor happened to be pointed when I got, after fighting the fish. And I just picked up a DT6, threw it, and it didn't make it. It's about 8 cranks in front of it, and it was another 4-pound smallmouth. And then I really expected to catch smallmouth all day. And as I went to some of these other places, I guess where it had been warm and the water was coming up, and the largemouth, they'll go up with the water quicker than smallmouth will. So a lot of this stuff started having largemouth on it. And I ended up catching another 4-pounder doing that. Cranking the same kind of structure, just happened to be a place where they could both be.
Right. How many keepers did you catch last year?
I had 5.
Well, throughout the day, how many keepers?
I would say, I think 8, maybe 9.
Okay. And did you have all your weight early? I know you mentioned kind of like around noon. You had caught a couple. Did it take all day to get your weight, or?
No, I was fairly well through around noon.
Okay.
I may have culled one more time way later in the day, but it was just a little bit, which was enough because it was fairly tight at the top.
Right. So what stage do you think the fish were in? Do you think they're pre-spawn, moving up to spawn? I mean, like, what was the water temperature? Where do you think the fish, what were they doing? Like, what had them related to that structure you're talking about?
I think the largemouth were coming up and in a very hard pre-spawn that week. And I think the smallmouth had already been spawning and was still, there were some that were done, some that were, there might have even been some still going because we were talking mid 50s, upper 50s in some places. And there was probably still some smallmouth going. There was some coming out, and there was still some actually spawning at that time. But the largemouth, they were definitely pre-spawn.
Okay. What about bait selection? I know you mentioned cranking, and looking at the history of Cherokee Lake, I know it's notorious for a great finesse fishing lake, both smallmouth and you say the largemouth, and does it sound like they kind of bite the same things as smallmouth? They kind of key on the same thing. So, what kind of baits were you throwing?
You see, now that also with that lake, downriver is real deep and clear.
Okay.
But if you go up the lake, you can get into muddy. It's still a little deeper, but you have some flatter, shallower stuff up the river. So normally in most lakes, upriver, you think upriver smallmouth are up in the river. It's not hardly the case there. I mean, you can still catch some. There's a bunch up there. Don't get me wrong. But you can catch a whole lot of largemouth up there in that thing too, instead of down the lake in the more deeper lake part. But as far as baits, it is normally a finesse lake. We've seen when Major League Fishing came a few years ago in bass, it's Ned rig up against the rocks, all finesse, little worms, little swim baits. But that's just not me.
Okay. So you're more of a power angler, throwing the crankbait, maybe the spinner bait, swim bait, that kind of stuff.
Yes. Yeah.
So, and when I say swim bait, I'm not talking about. What's that?
Only because I couldn't catch them flipping that week.
Okay, only because you couldn't catch. All right, well then you're diving into some more questions. It's full of rock. So do you flip the rock?
You can. I have caught them flipping a rock, but it's normally they'll eat moving, but they like moving baits. I've always had better Cherokee with moving baits.
Okay, so when you're flipping the rock, when it becomes that time to do that, are you like using a jig? Or are you flipping like you normally would flip wood or whatever? Or?
Yeah, same thing. I a jig, a beaver. I like a big beaver. That's usually my go-to.
Okay, so I guess because I'm just thinking about it in my mind when you tell me flipping, I'm thinking about docks, I'm thinking about grass, I'm thinking about wood. But I guess because that lake is so full of rock, that's just where they relate. And I mean, you can literally do anything there.
There's a few docks, but they're all floating. I mean, when you're talking about a lake that has a 35-foot drop, it's hard to have anything with legs on it.
Yeah, that's quite a drop. Wow.
It's
Okay.
it's deep. I don't know the exact number. I want to say it is around 30 to 35 though.
Okay. Okay. Well, in terms of thinking about last year, you're finished, top five to this year. Do you think it could be the same kind of patterns the fish are doing the same kind of thing related to that structure, same kind of baits, or what do you anticipate last year versus this year?
I think it's going to be eerily the same. We're now getting a bunch of warm. Them days are starting to get longer. We haven't really had a whole lot of good hot warm sun days. Like right now, it is absolutely raining cats and dogs, but it's warm outside. It's 60, 65. It feels like. I'm not real sure, but it's warm.
Okay. Okay. So, well, one last question before we let you go, Josh. In terms of like a co-angler coming to this event, maybe they've been to Cherokee Lake before, but they haven't had any luck, or this is their first year fishing the BFLs, or maybe it's just an angler wanting to go have some fun and catch the smallmouth there. They were going to bring 2 or 3 rods. What would you recommend bringing?
Oh man, with this weather going like it is, and the water's going to start. You're going to be 2 weeks into the water coming up there. I wouldn't be able to leave home without a spinnerbait, even though I've had it work there. It didn't work for me last year, but I couldn't leave home without it. Wouldn't be able to leave home without a square bill or a DT6. Either one, square bill, DT6, some kind of crankbait, and then I'd have to have some kind of soft plastic. Whether even if another good bait would be a wacky rig. I have caught a bunch around those little shallow isolated rocks on a wacky rig. You throw it up there a lot of times and you're just waiting for it to swim off. It's got a lot. There's a lot of fish in Cherokee Lake.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Really? Okay. Okay. That's really interesting. So, well, Josh, I really appreciate you coming on to our podcast with Revital Outdoors. Again, you got third place last year in the volunteer division on Cherokee Lake. So, again, thank you so much for coming on. But before we let you go, just want to give you this opportunity to thank anybody that supports you, sponsors, friends, family, anybody like that. And then talk to us a little bit about what you're looking forward to in 2022 this year.
Yeah, so I'd love to thank my family. I have the 3 biggest fans in the house with me: my wife, and my 2 little girls. They are Daddy's biggest fan, no doubt. I'd love to thank my Lord and Savior for being able to do this. So there's people that just wish they could get in a boat and go fishing, and I'm blessed with able to do it. Even at any level, even if it's not fishing tournaments and you're just going fishing, it's a good getaway to enjoy the creation there.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't have much going. And Bunch Marine, I would love to thank Bunch Marine. They have always kept my stuff going, no matter what. This new Mercury they got me in this year is amazing. And I'm fishing a bunch of MLF stuff this year, but I'm leaving next week for Eufaula. Going down. I'm going to fish the ABA Solo 150 trail.
Cool.
It looked like a neat deal, and thought I'd give it a try. I'm not real sure about the no co-angler by myself. I can't get nobody to blame now. So I guess I'll just have to wing it and see how it goes.
Absolutely, absolutely. One thing I want to touch on before we let you go, and Josh, I just want to say thank you for taking your kids fishing. Anytime, any parents that are watching this, any listeners out there, even if you don't have any kids, if maybe you're an aunt or an uncle, you have the opportunity to take a kid fishing because you never know what it's going to transpire for them. Getting them outdoors, getting away from all the media, the news, social media, all that crap. It's really good to get them out in nature and enjoy what God wanted us to enjoy and what He created for us. And I've always said, and I say this jokingly, but it really is the truth. If you teach your kids how to fish, they'll never have any money to get themselves in trouble. So
that's for sure.
Absolutely. Well, Josh, thanks for taking the time to do that. And I did get to see some of your fishing photos on Facebook, and it's really cool, man, to see you out there with your girls. And it looks like you guys are just having a blast.
Oh yeah, they love it.
Absolutely. So, well, from all of us,
the problem is I have had a problem with this. So you know how it is. We've all got 30, 40 rods we have in the boat most of the time, and then a garage full of them in the corner. Well, I bet you can't imagine how many Barbie, Spider-Man, Snoopy rods she thinks she has to have because Daddy has 40. Why can't she have 40?
You know what? That's raising them right there. That's a great mindset. That's awesome, buddy, for sure. That's really cool, man. So, well, yeah, man. So, well, I appreciate you coming on board tonight, Josh. We hope to hear from you again soon because if we have you back on our podcast, that means your 2022 tournament season has been going very, very well. So we hope to hear from you again.
Yeah, thank you.
Absolutely. So from all of us at Revital Outdoors, again, I'm Theron Asbury. You've been talking to Mr. Josh Norris. He got third place last year in the volunteer division on Cherokee Lake. So we look forward to seeing his success this year, and we wish all the BFL anglers this year the best of luck. And again, thank you for tuning into this podcast. God bless. Be safe out there. We'll talk to everyone very, very soon.